Hey y'all, let's take a look at rules for addition. A real quick little mini speech here, okay? This, I cannot tell you how important this is, this lesson. This is absolutely the meat and potatoes of Algebra 1. And I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and the number one problem I see with kids, or challenge we'll call it, is that they do not know their plus and minus tables lightning fast and accurate, and their times tables and division tables. In other words, we're going to be doing things with subtracting negative numbers and adding positive and negative numbers and subtracting and so on. And if you do not know immediately, if somebody says to you 13 minus 5, you don't go 8 immediately. If somebody says to you, 18 minus 9, 9, or 11 minus 6, 5, immediately, then you're in trouble. You're in real trouble, because algebra is not going to work for you very well, because you need to know your tables perfectly and lightning fast to succeed in Algebra 1 and any other math. Because what you're doing is, in algebra, the whole idea behind everything in algebra, or a lot of it, is they have figured out formulas that work, and like factoring that works over and over and over and over with any number that you stick in there. So they'll just say, okay, well, we'll say any number that works for it, we'll just call it x. So you're messing with x's and y's and a's, and if you don't know how to add fractions together very quickly of different denominators, if you don't know 13 minus 7 is 6, like that, in a second, then you're going to really struggle with 6 minus 13. And if you don't know, different pluses and minuses, lightning fast, then what's going to happen is you're going to slow down all your problem solving. And it's like trying to read if you don't know the phonics first. So you're sitting there trying to read the word, bread or whatever, and you're taking so long to read the word bread that you can't read the paragraph quickly and focus on the word bread and the comprehension. Instead, you're focused on what that word is. So I would strongly suggest, if you are not really, I'm talking about no hesitation whatsoever. It just pops in your head immediately. If you're not to that point with pluses and minuses and division and multiplication, I'm not sure I would go on with Algebra 1. You at least, maybe at the very least, I would suggest that you take, get a free online worksheet that just generates pluses and minuses and division and multiplication, and do at least one of those every day of each kind. I know it sounds like a lot, but believe me, it's going to be better for you in the long run. What I might do if I were you is to print these out weeks at a time, or maybe just one each day. Set a kitchen timer or your phone timer and focus on getting them correct, and check them and just write down how long it takes you. You should see a lowering of your time over months, but believe me, I've tutored so many kids in Saxon math, and I've had some parents come to me, oh, Saxon math is terrible. It took my daughter 3 hours to do a problem set. I'm like, what in the heck? Why? Okay, hold on, let's do something. And then I would go, I'd do something like this. I'd say, okay, let's, this is like Saxon, 7-6, and here's the problem, okay. And I go, okay, Susie, whatever, do this problem. And the girl goes, okay, 3 times 5. Now, 3 times 5 is, okay, let me count, 3 times 5, so 5, 10, 15. Okay, so 15 is, okay, you can see the problem, right? Okay, 15, and then they go something like, I'll go, okay, 9 times 7, and they go, oh, 9 times 7. Now, wait a second, so 9, wait, I hold my fingers up, and the 7th finger I hold up, I pull down, and they're sitting, nah, it ain't gonna work. Okay, you might as well take a thimble and try to dump out the Atlantic Ocean. And it just isn't going to work. You can do it, but I go, okay, Mom, Dad, I figured out the problem here. Okay, so it's taking you like 9 minutes to do one problem like this. You should just be bang, bang, bang as fast as you can, because you're doing the same stuff in algebra. So, not to discourage you if you're struggling with tables, but to tell you, don't bother. It isn't going to work until you have these tables down. So you might even show this video to Mom or Dad and say, Mom and Dad, I need to go several months and go on my tables first. Because if they're not lightning fast, you're going to be miserable. Taking a long time to do this stuff. So anyway, okay, but if you, assuming you're okay with that and you don't have that problem, then I just wasted 29 minutes of your life. But anyway, so let's get to this. Here's the actual rules for addition. You don't have to write this down, but make sure you know it. There are two of these, and here's how they work. If you add two signed numbers with the same sign, in other words, you're adding 6 and 9, okay, and they both have the same sign, okay, or you're adding -3 plus -2, like that. You add the absolute values of the numbers and give the answer the same sign as the numbers. Remember what absolute value is, right? How far away it is from 0, okay? So if they have the same sign, mentally you go absolute values, add them, and the answer is the same sign as those two. That's it, okay? For example, those have the same sign, right? Okay, absolute value of positive 2, 2. Absolute value of positive 8, 8. 2 plus 8, 10. Positive 10 because they're both positive. All right, another one, -3 plus -7. Well, absolute values means that's 3 plus 7. 3 plus 7 is 10. Since they're both negative, the answer is negative, -10. All right, let's go -4 plus -5. Okay, same sign, so you add the absolute values. So you add 4 plus 5 is 9, but since both of those are negative, the answer is negative. Same thing over here, all right? You've got 5 and 13. Well, absolute values of both of those are just 5 and 13. 13 plus 5 is 18. Is it positive or negative? Well, both of those are positive, so this is positive. There you go. That's the way you do it. Both of those numbers, in each case, are the same sign. Absolute values add, the sign is the same as both of those numbers. The second rule, here we go, ready? Okay, adding two sign numbers with different signs. Okay, you'll take the absolute values again, but you'll subtract this time. You'll subtract. Got that? Okay. The answer, is it going to be positive or is it going to be negative? The answer to that is which one of those numbers has the bigger absolute value. That's the sign you're going to take. In other words, if you have a number line and somebody says to you, oh, we're going to do -3 and we're going to add that to 7. Okay. Well, look at there. They're different signs. So looking at a number line, well, here's a -3, right? Somewhere right there. Here's your 7, okay? All right. You're going to take the absolute values again. Since they're different, you're going to subtract them. Since they're different signs to begin with, you'll subtract them. So you'll take 7 minus 3 is 4. Okay, well, should that be a positive 4 or should it be a -4? The answer is, which one of these is farther away from 0? Oh, this one is. It's a positive, so that means your answer will be positive. It matches, okay? So let's do a couple of these very quickly. All right, you have a positive 7 plus a -5. All right, well, since they're different signs, you take the absolute values and you subtract them. The answer is 2. Should that be a positive 2 or a -2? The answer to that question is, which one of these is farther away from 0? The answer is that. It's positive, so that's positive. There you go. Okay, all right, another one. How about -3 plus positive 9? And you can stop and copy these, pause and copy if you need to, okay? As soon as you see you have two numbers with a different sign, you subtract the absolute values. So you'll go 9 minus 3. 9 minus 3 is 6. Should that be positive 6 or should that be -6? The answer is, which one of these is farther away from 0? That is, so that means this is positive as well. All right? Okay, here's another one. -12, positive 5. You're adding those two together. Well, as soon as you see two numbers with opposite signs, you've got to immediately in your head subtract. 12 minus 5 is what you're looking at. 12 minus 5, and see, again, this is, you have to know 12 minus 5 is 7 immediately, not 12 minus 5, I'm going to take, no, absolutely not. You have to memorize that, okay? When you memorize these things, that frees you up to focus on concepts and not on counting. No, absolutely not. So you should know 12 minus 5 is 7. The question is this a positive 7 or is this a -7? Let me ask you something. Which one of those numbers here is farther away from 0? This one is, right? It's negative, which means the answer is negative. Boom, there you go. Okay, here's another one. We have a positive 5 and a -13. Well, immediately when you see two numbers or different signs, you subtract. 13 minus 5 is 8. There's another one that you should know immediately. Is that a -8 or is it a positive 8? Which one is farther away from 0? That is, it's a negative, so that means that is negative. That is the rule. There are only two rules. If they have the same signs, you add the absolute values and give it the same sign as what both numbers are. If you have different signs and you're adding them, you subtract the absolute values and give the answer the same sign as the number that has the, is farthest away from 0, basically. Okay. Now pause this and go ahead and go all the way down and go do A through H. Just pause the video. Okay, I'm assuming you've paused it and you finished A through H. Let's do it. These are different signs, a positive 7 and a negative 3. So you subtract the absolute values, which gives you 4. Should this be positive or negative 4? That is farther away from 0, so it's a positive as well. All right? These are the exact same signs, so you take the absolute values and you add them. 7 plus 3 is 10. You give the answer the same sign as both of those have. Okay? By the way, this is logically sensible, right? If you have negative $7 in the bank and you write a check or something for $3 more, and your bank account is like $10 under, right? Like a temperature. Okay. For C, same thing. We're going to, well, same thing as A. They're different signs, so you subtract the absolute value. The answer is 4. But since this is farther away from 0, negative 7, the answer is negative. For D, they're the same signs, so you add the absolute values. That's 9, but the answer will be the same sign as both of those. Boom. This one, different signs. Subtract the absolute values. 8 minus 3 is 5. But 8, negative 8, is farther away from 0, so it carries more weight and makes the final answer negative. This one, piece of cake, both the same sign. 2 plus 9, 11. Both negatives, so that's negative. This one, negative 6 plus 13. This is another one of those you should know your subtractions, okay? They're different, so you subtract the absolute values. The answer is, you should know immediately, not 10 seconds from now, immediately the answer is 7. Should that be negative or positive? That is farther away from 0, so that's going to be negative to match it. This one here, they're both the same sign, so you take the absolute values and add them. You get 15, and that's going to be a negative because they're both negative. That's the only two rules there are. You've got to know those immediately and perfectly. And again, if you do not know that 17 minus 8 immediately is 9, you're going to have a terrible time trying to do, 8 minus 17 is negative 9. It's almost the same problem as this. Okay. All right. A couple of things. If you're adding more than 2 numbers, you can do this in 2 ways, whichever one you like. All right. And you'll get faster at this as you go along, but make sure you're being really precise. Okay. You can, if you'd like to, go left to right and just do 2 at a time, and that's fine. Or you can lump all the positives together and then lump all the negatives together and then have a problem where you end up with a positive and a negative and then see what happens there. But we can go, let's just go left to right for this one to see how it works, all right? So let's go. Negative 6 plus 4. Well, those are different signed numbers. So in your head, you're going, okay, I'm subtracting the absolute values. 6 minus 4 is 2. Now, should that be a negative 2 or a positive 2? This is farther away from 0 than that, so this matches. Boom. All right, so let's go. We have a negative 2 plus another negative 2. I'm just dropping this down. Okay, that's our problem now. Negative 2 plus negative 2, well, they're the same sign, right? So you'll take the absolute values and you add them. That gives you 4. But since they're both negatives, you take that negative 4. That's your answer. Okay, so there's your answer. I'm dropping down this one. Plus a positive 3. Excuse me. Immediately you go, oh, different signs, so I subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1. Should that be a positive 1 or a negative 1? Well, which one of these is farther away from 0? Negative 4 or positive 3? Negative 4 is right. That's a negative, so that means that's a negative. Boom, there's your answer. Done. Okay, really quickly, let me show you something else you can do. You can also do this and go, okay, I'm just going to lump the negatives all together. Negative 6 and negative 2. Okay, and we can go like this. Negative 6 plus negative 2. Well, they're both the same sign, right? So you just add the absolute values. So 6 plus 2 is 8. But they're both negatives, so this is going to be a negative. Okay, done and done. Okay, well, there's a positive 4. There's a positive 3. We all know what 4 plus 3 is. It's 7, right? You can just write 7. And you don't have to write all these parentheses. I'm just writing them for you so you can kind of see the difference here. Okay, so negative 8 plus positive 7. Well, that's our problem. Okay, so you look at this and go, oh, they're different signs, a negative 8 and a positive 7. So if they're negative two numbers, I subtract. So I go 8 minus 7 equals 1. Okay, well, should that be a positive 1 or a negative 1? Which has the greater absolute value? Negative 8 or positive 7? In other words, which one of these is farther away from 0? Well, this one is, right? So that has a negative, so we attach a negative, which is exactly the same answer we got a couple of minutes ago. Okay? All right, let's go left to right, and you give it a whirl. Pause it and try it. Okay, let's go left to right. Minus 5 plus positive 1. Well, they're different signs, so we subtract. 5 minus 1 is 4. Should that be positive 4 or negative 4? This is farther away from 0, so it's negative 4. Okay, so let's bring this down. Negative 4 plus negative 4. Well, in this case, they're both the same sign, right? So we add the absolute values, which gives us 8. But since those are both negative, that's going to be negative. So negative 8, now we're going to drop this down, plus positive 2. And again, we have different signs, so we take the absolute values and we subtract 8 minus 2. That equals 6. Well, positive or negative 6? Negative, right? This is farther away from 0 than that is, so the weight of this number carries it to the left, you know, on the side of the number line. There we go. There's our answer. All right. Let's look at this. Now you can you can lump together tons of numbers like this. You don't have to, we don't have to have them all in parentheses. You can just go left to right. In fact, you can go any order you want, really, just as long as you keep the signs straight. 8 minus 3 is 5. 5 plus 5 is 10. You can just go left to right if you want to. All right, how about this one? Negative 4 minus 2 minus 1 plus 5. Now, again, do you like parentheses in there? Feel free, stick them in there. Okay, that's all right. You don't have to, though. In other words, you could write this same thing. You could go negative 4 plus negative 2 plus negative 1 plus positive 5. Ooh, I hear that thunder. Okay. It doesn't matter. If you like parentheses, great. Do them. If you don't, just do it. Okay? So this is the same thing as saying we're adding negative 4 with negative 2. Now, I've had kids ask me, now, is that minus 2 or is that negative 2? And the answer is yes, it is. Either one of those. I don't care what you call it. You can call it opposite of 2. Okay, a teacher I worked with 20-something years ago, he refused to use the word negative. He said opposite. Opposite 2, opposite 1, opposite 4, fine, whatever you want to call it. Okay. In other words, on a number line, you're at negative 4, right? If you added 2, you would go 2 to the right. But you're not adding 2, you're subtracting 2, so you're going to the left. So let's treat this as one of those things, like where we go negative 4 plus negative 2. Well, that'll give us, of course, if they're the same sign, you add them, that gives you a 6. Well, since that's both negative, yoink, negative 6, right? Okay, so now let's go ahead and bring this thing down. So plus and negative 1, well, they're the same sign again. So we're going to add the absolute values, so that gives us 7. But of course, they're both negative, so this is negative, right? Okay, and we could have been doing this on the left as well. Oh, negative 4 minus 2, ooh, negative 6. Negative 6 minus 1, negative 7. It's the same thing. You're adding numbers. You can call it negative 6 plus negative 1, or you can call it minus 6, negative 6 minus 1, same thing, whatever. Now let's go ahead and bring down the 5. Negative 7 plus positive 5, different signs, right? So we are taking the absolute values, which is 7 and 5, and subtracting it, which gives us 2. Now, should the answer be a positive 2 or a negative 2? Negative, right? Because this is farther away from 0 than that, so that takes the weight of it, gives it the negative. Boom, there you go. Okay, and again, that's the same thing as saying negative 7 plus 5, same old thing. All right, okay. Let's do one more here. Look at all these numbers. Wow, okay. Well, let's do it together. We'll try it. Just do 2 at a time. All we need to do. Negative 3 plus 6. Let's think about this. They're different signs, right? So we're going to go absolute values 6 and 3. 6 minus 3 is 3. Should it be positive 3 or should it be negative 3? It should be positive 3, right? Because this number here is farther away from 0, so it's a positive 3. Now we can go minus 2. Well, that's easy. We know 3 minus 2 is 1, right? 1 minus 1, that's 0, right? Okay, we got that. So 0 plus 3, 3. Now we have 3 minus 5 as our last one. Okay, well 3 minus 5, just look at that as two numbers. That's a 3 and that's a minus 5. Okay? Don't get too hung up on, oh, it's a negative 5 or it's, oh, is it subtract 5? Yes, it's both of those. Call it either one of those. Just imagine the 3 here, and here's the negative 5 sitting right there next to it. Okay? So you are adding two numbers, the 3 and the negative 5. You're clumping those things together, but we know the rule, right? A 3 and a negative. A positive 3 and a negative 5, which means you flip them. You go, I'm taking absolute values. I'm going 5 minus 3, which is 2. But should it be a negative 2 or a positive 2? Well, is this number or is this number farther away from 0? And clearly that one is, right? Since that's a negative, the answer is going to be a negative. You got it. Okay. All right. And if you want, like I said in the last slide, you can, if you want to insert these parentheses mentally, or or you can just write them out. It doesn't matter. They'll melt away after all. You'll quit using them. But let's try just, thinking of these as 2 at a time. And you can do this as long as you want to until you start getting faster and you start getting it and you can do this in your head. Okay, let's do them on paper first here. So negative 2 minus 5. In other words, you're adding two numbers, a negative 2 and a negative 5. Okay, so since they have the same sign, you take the absolute values, which is 2 and 5, and you add them. You get a 7. But since they're both negative, you get a negative 7. Now let's go ahead and try this one. Negative 7 plus 3, right? All right. Well, again, you have two numbers. They're the opposite signs. So you take the absolute values, which is 7 and 3, and subtract them, and that gives you 4. Should it be negative 4 or positive 4? Which has the greater absolute value? That one does. So right there on it. Bring this down. Now we have a new problem. This is it. Done, done. Negative 4 and a negative 1. They're being added together. Okay, there are ones here and ones sitting there. We have to clump them together. All right? They have the same sign, which means we take the absolute values, 4 and 1, and we add them to get 5. But since they're both negatives, this is negative. Done. And we bring down the minus 4. And again, we have two numbers that are the same sign, right? They're both negatives. So that means we take the absolute values, 5 and 4, and we add them. They get 9. But since they're both negatives, this is negative. Again. And we have a negative 3. And then this, again, same old thing. We got two numbers that are the same. There's a negative 9. I'm going to add to the negative 3. Lump them together to the same sign. So I take the absolute values. 9 plus 3 is 12. And then since those are both negatives, the answer to that is negative. And there you go. That's it. Okay. All right. Let's try this one. You try this one. Pause it. Go left to right, do exactly what we just did in the last slide. Pause it right now and then come back and I'll tell you the answer. All right, negative 3 plus 10, different signs. Subtract the absolute values. 10 minus 3 is 7. Which should be positive or negative? I have a 10 and I have a negative 3. This one, 10, is farther away from that, so the 7 will be positive, okay? Well, 7 minus 5, we all know that. It's 2. Done, done. 2 plus 6, well, heaven's sakes, we know that's going to be 8. 8 minus 8, that's 0. There we go. That was an easy one. Okay? All right. Try this one. Well, let's do this together since this is kind of funky looking here. This is negative 2 plus, the absolute value of negative 5. Well, that's no big deal, right? What's the absolute value of negative 5? Just 5, right? Just cross this chunk out of there. Take a giant black magic marker and write all in your math book. Okay, don't do that. Okay. All right, because your little sister might have to use it in a couple of years or something. Okay, so all we're doing right now is going negative 2 plus 5. Okay, different signs, right? We subtract the absolute values. 5 minus 2 is 3. This is farther away from 0. It's positive, so this will be as well. So 3 plus 4 We all know that is 34. No, it's not 34, it's 7. Okay. Now we have 7 minus 8. That's our new problem, right? We're done with that. Well, again, we have we have a 7 here, and we have a negative 8 right here. And we're getting those together. So, different signs. So we subtract the absolute values. 8 minus 7 is 1. But this is farther away from 0 than the 7 is. So this is negative as well. Okay, so now we have a negative 3, so minus 1, minus 3, or negative 1, minus 3. Well, both the same signs. We're adding them, right? Negative 1 minus 3 is the same thing as going negative 1 plus negative 3. It's the same thing. So we're adding them. They're both the same signs, so we add the absolute values, which gives us 4. But since they're both negative, we go negative 4, done. Last thing is negative 1 here. Excuse me. And again, these are both the same sign, so we take the absolute values. 4 plus 1 is 5, and then go, since they're both negative, there's my answer is negative as well. Boom, there you go. Okay, all right. Let's look at very quickly subtraction, what it is. This is real short. If A and B are real numbers, and don't worry about all these different algebra stuff here, then A minus B is the same thing as A plus negative B. So anytime you see A plus a negative of a number, it's the same thing as subtracting, right? In other words, if you have A, let's say it's 7, and you go, 7 minus, 4. That's the same thing as saying 7 plus negative 4, right? Like if you have $7 in your bank account and you take out 4 to pay somebody, for an ice water at Starbucks, $4. You have $3, right? But if you have $7 and then you add, you go, oh, I'm adding a check, or I'm doing a check here, and it's going to take $4 out of my account. It's the same thing, right? On a number line, if you have 7 and you add 4, well, you're going that way. But if you have a number line and you got 7 plus, oh, I'm going the other way. Well, that thing's going to be less than 7. That's the concept behind all this kind of thing. So, all right. And again, I mentioned this before. I cannot tell you how important this is to get this down. So if you are a little slow at this, you've got to get faster. Not at this stuff. I'm talking about 7 plus 8. 9 plus 4. 11 minus 6. 13 minus 4. 12 minus 7. All that kind of thing. That needs to be lightning fast, or else look at all this gobbledygook. It's going to be slower molasses, or really slow molasses. Okay, not the fast guy. All right, let's try the practice set. Go ahead and give these a whirl, and pause it and come back. Let's do all these at once. Okay, A is negative 6, or opposite 6. All right, B, negative 17. C, also negative 17. D, negative 14. And that is it. Okay, so make sure those are down. Give that a good whirl, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.